What is up, my beautiful soap squad? It is a glorious rainy Tuesday here in New York City, but the only storm I care about is the absolute hurricane hitting Port Charles. I am Paul Walker from the GH Spoilers YouTube channel, and let me tell you, today's episode just rewired my entire brain chemistry. We have to talk about Elizabeth Nina and the hospital showdown of the century. Oh my god. Stop scrolling right now, I'm literally speechless. Are they for real? Dude. I'm so shocked, my jaw literally hit the floor when I saw how this entire hospital sequence played out. We have been begging the writers to give Elizabeth Baldwin her agency back, and they just served us a 5-course meal of pure, unadulterated medical detective brilliance. I mean, legit. I was sitting on my couch, vibrating at a frequency that could shatter glass because the sheer tension in that General Hospital corridor was suffocating in the best way possible. We all knew Nina Reeves was playing a very dangerous, very messy game when she accidentally stabbed Jack Brennan with Drew Kane's paralytic medicine. But to think that Liz would be the one to absolutely dismantle her entire operation, no cap, that is the kind of storytelling that keeps me glued to this screen after all these years. It is a straight up masterclass in utilizing legacy characters to drive the main plot, and I am here for every single second of it. Besties. Can we unpack the audacity Nina Reeves really thought she could just roll into General Hospital? Drop a fully paralyzed WSB field office boss onto a gurney and play the concerned bystander. Like, she didn't just commit a federal crime on Willow's living room rug. The absolute nerve of this woman is staggering. She is standing there looking all frantic and vague, giving Elizabeth this half-baked story about how Jack just collapsed out of nowhere because he is always tense. The man is chemically locked inside his own body, Nina. But get this, Elizabeth has been a nurse at this hospital for decades. She has seen every gunshot wound, every rare toxin, every mob-related injury this cursed town has to offer. You do not just walk into her ER with a patient exhibiting the exact same hyper-specific, terrifying symptoms that Drew Kane exhibited just 3 months ago and expect her not to notice. Wait, we need to talk about the impossible lightning reflexes of Elizabeth's brain working in this episode. The moment she laid eyes on Brennan, you could physically see the gears shifting behind her eyes. It was a total kinetic, child's moment of pure realization. She's looking at his vitals. She is looking at his lack of motor function. And her seasoned nurse instincts are screaming that this is not a stroke. This is an induced paralysis. I am actually losing my sanity over here watching her piece it all together because it is just so satisfying. She remembers Drew's identical condition. She remembers Nina's proximity to the Cassadine drama, and she low-key just decides that she is not going to let this slide. This is why Elizabeth is a top-tier character, facts. She doesn't just wait for the police to figure it out. She takes matters into her own hands with that god-tier mechanical execution of sneaking a blood sample right under everyone's noses. Also, can we just appreciate the sheer stealth and precision of Nurse Baldwin? She didn't make a big scene right away. She didn't run screaming to the doctors. She quietly, methodically drew Brennan's blood and ran a private toxicology screen. The tension while she waited for those results was legit killing me. I was sweating. And when the results came back, bam. Traces of a highly classified, incredibly potent neuroparalytic agent. Not a blood clot, not a brain bleed, a chemical weapon. The validation she must have felt in that moment, combined with the horrifying realization that Nina Reeves is out, here running around Port Charles armed with paralyzing syringes, it's giving me absolute chills. Essentially, Liz just became the most dangerous person to Valentine and Nina's entire cover-up, and she did it armed with nothing but a centrifuge and her own brilliant mind. Slay Elizabeth, absolute slay. Hot take incoming, but I genuinely believe this is the best material Cynthia Watros has had all year. The cornered animal energy she brought to the hospital lobby when Elizabeth finally confronted her was palpable. Liz didn't just ask her nicely. She cornered Nina in that sterile, brightly lit hallway, slapped those lab results down, and demanded a full, unvarnished explanation. The way Nina's face completely fell, the way the blood drained from her cheeks, it was cinema. Nina was spiraling her mind, racing 1,000,000 miles a minute, trying to figure out how to spin this. But the evidence was right there in black and white. You can't gaslight a blood test, Nina. And the way Elizabeth stood her ground, radiating this unyielding, righteous authority, was everything I have ever wanted. Don't you feel it's so unfair for them to always let the villains get away with it? Well, not today. And then the absolute desperation kicks in. Nina, realizing she is dead to rights, tries to pull the most classic messy soap opera move in the book The Bribe. She actually tries to buy Elizabeth Baldwin's silence. Oh my god, I was screaming at my television. Nina starts throwing out offers of massive amounts of money, but when she sees Liz isn't biting, she goes for the jugular. She brings up Rocco. She knows Dante and Liz are dealing with the fallout of Rocco, shooting Ross Cullum, and she promises to use her resources, her money, Valentine's connections, whatever it takes, to clear Rocco's name and keep him out of prison. Does anyone else feel physically attacked right now? Using a mother's fear for a child she cares about as a bargaining chip to cover up a federal crime. That is so low even for Nina. Remember when they tried this with Nell Benson? Yeah, it went nowhere back then either. You cannot buy off the core moral compass characters when they are locked in on the truth. Is this same tragedy happening to Nina all over again? She always pushes too far. Always thinks she can manipulate her way out of the consequences of her own chaotic actions. But Elizabeth is not some easily swayed rookie. Elizabeth has survived serial killers, mob wars, and Cassadine mind games. She looked at Nina's bribe, looked at the promise of protecting Rocco, and absolutely rejected it. Her integrity in that moment was a beautiful, shining beacon of light in this dark, messy storyline. She refused to let Brennan suffer the same silent, agonizing fate as Drew, just to save herself a headache. Facts. Liz is the MVP of this entire decade for that move alone. But let's really dive into the psychology here, because I am fully nerding out over the lead dev's crazy update history with these character arcs. The writers have been slowly building this tension for months, layering the Rocco trauma over the Drew paralysis plot, creating this massive web of secrets. Wait, I'm getting way too deep in the weeds. Let me pull it back. Anyway, back to the actual gameplay. The rejection of the bribe completely breaks Nina's brain. She is backed into an impossible corner. If Liz talks, Nina goes to prison for assaulting a federal agent. Valentine's entire operation is exposed, and Jocelyn's rescue mission is compromised. The stakes have legit never been higher. Nina's eyes go dark, and you can see her actually contemplating extreme measures. Will she attack Liz? Will she try to drug her too? The psychological warfare in that hallway was so intense I forgot to breathe. I know some people are really enjoying this villainous, desperate era for Nina, but personally, I think she has completely lost the plot. She is so blinded by her alliance with Valentine and her own self-preservation that she's willing to destroy anyone in her path. But Elizabeth was not about to become a victim. She read the danger in Nina's eyes, and she made her move. She didn't hesitate. She didn't give Nina time to formulate a counterattack or call Valentine for backup. Elizabeth went straight to the one person who could handle this explosive truth, Dante Falconeri. The moment she walked away from Nina and pulled out her phone to call Dante, I cheered. I literally threw my hands in the air and yelled, don't you think they should have just let Nina confess from the start? It would have saved so much trouble. But no, we had to do it the hard way. When Dante arrived at the hospital, the energy shifted entirely. Dante is already a live wire right now. He's furious with Lulu, he's terrified for Rocco, and he is dealing with the Ross Cullum fallout. So when Elizabeth pulls him aside and drops the absolute nuke that Nina Reeves just paralyzed the head of the WSB field office with a stolen neurotoxin, Dante's reaction was everything. The cop instincts immediately overrode the personal drama. He realized that the woman standing in the lobby was a walking, talking felony, and he did not waste a single millisecond. The arrest sequence. My God, the arrest sequence. Smash that shift key, because I need to yell about this. It was a total kinetic chouse moment. Dante marching across that hospital lobby, his badge flashing, his voice booming with absolute authority. Nina trying to back away, her hands shaking, her eyes darting around looking for an exit that didn't exist. Nina Reeves, you are under arrest. Those words. Those beautiful, long-awaited words echoing off the walls of General Hospital. The way he slapped those cuffs on her while the entire nursing staff, including a very stoic, very vindicated Elizabeth Baldwin, watched it happen. It was poetry. It was God-tier mechanical execution of a storyline climax. And let's not forget the ripple effects this is going to have across the entire canvas. Valentine is sitting over at Carly's house thinking he has a handle on the situation, completely unaware that his co-conspirator has just been booked and printed by the PCPD. Carly is going to absolutely lose her mind when she finds out what Nina did, and Drew is sitting in his wheelchair, wiggling his fingers, knowing that the woman who missed his dose is now sitting in an interrogation room. The entire simulation has been reset, besties. We are in uncharted territory now, and I am here for the absolute mess of it all. This is just my personal take, and many might disagree, but I think this is exactly the wake-up call the canvas needed. We needed a hero to step up and cut through the Cassidy-level nonsense, and Elizabeth Baldwin was the perfect person to do it. She used her medical expertise, her unwavering moral compass, and her sheer bravery to stop a runaway train. Nina thought she could play God with a syringe, but she forgot that in this hospital, Nurse Baldwin holds the power. No cap, this episode is going down in the GH Hall of Fame. So what happens next? Will Nina flip on Valentine to save herself? Will she use her phone call to beg Sunny for help? Or will she reach out to her high-powered lawyers to try and spin this as an accident? And what about Brennan? Now that the PCPD knows he's been poisoned, the WSB is going to descend on Port Charles like a swarm of angry locusts. Ross Cullum is going to be demanding answers. And Dante is going to be caught right in the middle of a massive federal investigation while still trying to protect Rocco. The layers to this drama are infinite, and I am legit spiraling just thinking about all the possible outcomes. I am so hyped for the rest of this week. I can barely contain myself. We are so back, baby. The pacing, the acting, the high-stakes medical drama. This is the General Hospital we know and love. I'm filing a lawsuit against the writers for emotional distress because my heart cannot take much more of this. But also, please never stop giving us this kind of television. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you are Team Liz or if you low-key feel bad for Nina. You shouldn't, but I want to hear it anyway. Hit that subscribe button, smash a like, and I will see you all tomorrow for another frantic, soul-searching breakdown of the absolute chaos that is Port Charles. Stay messy, my friends.